Hello, BookTube. Back with the second shelf of Stoker, Dracula / vampires. And this is shelf tour 29, but shelf number 2 of Dracula. I missed this one off the last shelf. This is the shooting script of the 1930 Dracula 31. Was it released in 31? 1931. And this is the shooting script with Bela. The other one that I showed is the one that they would have been a silent version with Lon Chaney. This is published or reprinted by Bear Manor Books. Or Bear Manor Media. Trying to see a date. They did this. It was originally done by Magic Image Productions in 1990. So sometime after that, it was done by Bear Manor. It's not a very good. It's like a. It's print on demand, as their books are, but the photographs are very subpar. They just look like half decent photocopies, but the text is all there. The original script is all there. So that one I did miss. It says contains production background, press book, biography notes, and the cast and crew, complete shooting strip, rare photographs, behind the scenes photos. Well, sort of, after a fashion. Okay, now this shelf is more or less miscellaneous stuff, more to do with vampires than Dracula per se. There are a few though still that are going to be Dracula related. Here was something that I picked up for almost next to nothing. Who was Dracula's father, and other puzzles in Bram Stoker's Gothic masterpiece by John Sutherland. And it includes an essay, Dracula Digested, by John Creasy. And it's published by Icon Books in 2017. There's a whole series of these. There's a Can Jane Eyre Be Happy? Is Heathcliff a murderer? It's little things like that. There's one I think even on Sherlock Holmes. But as I say, this when I was ordering from a remainder place, I needed something like £1.50 extra in order to get free shipping, or I would pay £6 for shipping. So the only thing I could find was this, I think, at $1.99. So I thought, yeah, why not? But it looks interesting. I've glanced through it, so it wasn't a waste. I saved some money. The Dracula myth. This is sort of another sort of one of billions of these that have been sort of written. By Gabrielle Ronay. I paid a huge amount for that from a charity shop, 60p. And so I couldn't pass that up. I haven't read it. I've looked through it. It just looks like your normal rehash of everything. It's nothing special. Gabrielle Ronay was born in Transylvania and came to Britain from Hungary after an abortive 1956 revolution. He's a graduate of the Budapest and Edinburgh universities. In 1966, he joined Reuters news agency and worked as a sub-editor and correspondent both in Fleet Street and abroad. Under the pen name of Gabrielle Lawrence, he wrote on Soviet and East European affairs in the New Statements from 1965 to 70. In 1967, he joined the Times and is also a regular contributor to the Sunday Times. He is married with 3 children, and his hobbies are music and photography. So yeah, it doesn't look anything special, but the price was right. And again, this is like, if it ever gets to a point I need shelf space, I'll read it and then probably wind up discarding it if it's not that good. Just make some notes. Bram Stoker's Dracula, Sucking Through the Century, 1897 to 1997, edited by Carol Margaret Dawson with participation of Paul Simpson Housley. This is a Canadian publication, Dundurn Press, Toronto and Oxford. Yeah, 1997. It's just a series of essays that are on subjects. It's they as usual, they usually do vampire text. In 1997 there must have been dozens of conferences and collections of papers. Again, I have not sought any of this stuff out. It's just whatever comes across my path, basically, for future reading. Dracula, 1890s, the vampire text. 20th century vampires text and how it's changed. Celluloid vampires. Vampires in society. The red pages, Stoker, Dracula, associations, awards, resources. And then the bloody bibliography at the end. So yeah, so that was sort of nice to get. I've read a few of these, but I haven't read them all. Some of them are quite academic. This one looks really, really good. When I saw that, I had to get it, and also again, it was a marked down price on Amazon. It is The Vampire: A New History by Nick Groom, and it's put out by Yale University Press. And Nick Groom is known as the Prof of Goth. The Prof of Goth is professor in English at the University of Exeter. His previous titles include The Gothic: A Very Short Introduction, and The Seasons: A Celebration of the English Year, which was shortlisted for the Catherine Briggs Folklore Award and was runner-up in the BBC Country Life Book of the Year. He has also edited a series of Gothic novels, including The Monk and Frankenstein. And this was published in 2018, and it's just a history of the vampire. The vampire can be traced to a specific time and place, 1725, on the borders of Habsburg Empire. This was the moment when Enlightenment reason confronted Eastern European folklore, and when a series of deadly supernatural events captured the attention of doctors, scientists, and theologians from all over the continent. So that looks, as I say, very, very good for interest-wise. When I say there isn't much Dracula, well, there is still. The Origins of Dracula by Clive Leverdale. This is another one of those desert islands books. This is a collection of essays. He edited this. Just a mishmash, a whole bunch of stuff. The origins, where sort of the ideas and in the folklore and so forth have come from. This is not the Desert Island books, but it's by the same. I think this is his book himself. Yeah, Clive Leverdale. This is Dracula, the novel and the legend, a study of Bram Stoker's Gothic masterpiece. So it's just a study of Dracula itself. Let's see here. Now we get The Vampire Family. Passion, Envy, and the Curse of Byron. And it's Andrew McConnell Stott by Canongate, Edinburgh and London, 2013. And in the spring of 1816, Lord Byron was the greatest poet of his generation and the most famous man in Britain. But his personal life was about to erupt. Fleeing his celebrity, notoriety, and debts, he sought refuge in Europe, taking his young doctor with him, Dr. Polidori. So where am I here? He sought refuge in Europe, taking his young doctor with him as the inexperienced medic with literary aspirations of his own. Dr. Polidori could not believe his luck. The summer, another literary summer. That summer, another literary star also arrived in Geneva. With Percy B. Shelley came his lover Mary and her stepsister Claire Claremont. And for the next 3 months, this party was young bohemians shared lives. So it's and it just goes on from there. And I think everybody's sort of familiar with the outline of the story. So that's a little more details with regards to the vampire aspect of that summer. Metamorphosis of the vampire in literature and film, cultural transformations in Europe, 1732 to 1933, by Eric Butler. This is, it's actually a print on demand, which I didn't realize. Camden House, 2010. I'm not sure if they're going to that route, but this is quite a few years ago. It's a decade ago that this was done. The printing of it was, I would have picked this up probably sometime in the last 3-4 years. But yeah, I haven't read it. It just looks like exactly what it is, cultural transformations in Europe for the vampire in the literature and film of the time. Peter Hanning, another one here, and Peter Tremaine, The Undead, the legend of Bram Stoker and Dracula. I don't know how. I don't think this is that superb. It's an ex-library copy that. Here's another example of a seller trying to pull the wool over people's eyes, or someone who'd actually got it and then didn't realize or didn't care. It's an ex-library. They've taken off the label fine. There's a sticker on the back, but somebody has excised the front freehand paper and then glued the half title in there to hide that fact. And then they've taken out the strip there for the electronic strip, but it's really fuzzed the paper. You can see where it was stuck. It won't show up on the camera, I don't think. But it's an ex-library. It's clear. It's clear as day that it's an ex-library. And disguised, they're trying to fix that, which is fine. It was something that I would do. If I wanted to keep the book, I would try to clean it up as much as possible, which is fair enough. But if you go to sell it, you've got to say, what it is, because the buyer cannot see it. I have not read it yet, so I don't know if it's worth replacing with a better copy. And that will be in the reading if it is something that I do want to get a better copy of eventually. Here's Vampires, Burial, and Death, Folklore and Reality by Paul Barber. It's Yale University Press. Somebody went to town with an inscription, which can't even be, it's almost non-readable. Anyway, I think, or something, but love anyway, or something. I don't know. Hard to read, but it's, as I say, it's Yale University Press, Paul Barber, 1988, and it's throughout the world there is a common belief that the dead may return to life. In Europe, the most exotic form of this belief is the legend of the vampire. In this engrossing book, Paul Barber surveys centuries of folklore about vampires, from the tale of the 16th century shoemaker from Breslau, whose ghost terrorized everyone in the city, to the testimony of a doctor who presided over the exhumation and dissection of a graveyard full of Serbian vampires. Analyzing these reports, Barber offers for the first time a scientific explanation for the origin of the vampire legends. So this will go very nicely with the other one that's by Yale University. It'll sort of be a companion to it. And read that one first. Now, when I said that there's been sort of some stuff on the previous video regarding, comparing books and stuff, here's sort of it is. Here's the hardback edition by David Scull, the Hollywood Gothic, the tangle web of Dracula from novel to stage to screen. Um, I finally had to get a copy here in the UK, and this is a bit rough. It was funny because I had in Canada, when I used to sell some books, I used to have like 30 or 40 copies of this that I bought as a remainder because it was remaindered in Canada, and I bought basically I think about 50 copies originally because it was the only remaindered copies there were as far as I was aware. See that one. So there must have been some in the States that has a remainder mark. The ones that I had did not have remainder marks. But anyway, this was published by Norton and Company in 1990. So yeah, so it would have been the early 90s. But then it was revised in paperback. Let me just slide this over with some extra little bits and pieces. So I had bought the paperback first, and this is a print on demand as well. But the photographs are actually quite good, so they're not too bad. The additions to this, I think he extended the bibliography, but he added a few appendices with films and plays. Yeah, Dracula on screen, Dracula on stage. Yeah, Dracula on stage. So he's listed quite a few here for stage. So yeah, so again, that he's done sort of a lot of the work that I read that originally in Canada, the hardcover of it, and it is something that just do a reread. Now we are getting into mostly other vampire stories. This is a massive one, Varney the Vampire. As you can see, it's big. It is weighing in with over 1,100 pages, 1,166 pages. Small print as well. It's something that I haven't dug into and get through. It's mainly because the print is so small. I've started and I struggle with the size of the print on this, and it's a Wordsworth edition, and it's the only one that there is really, as far as I know, other than maybe some other print-on-demand ones. But I'm going to have to look into it or struggle with this one to read. It was originally done in the Penny Dreadful, so as a weekly thing. So we just ran with it and just went on and on and on forever. James Malcolm Rymer. It's part of their Tales of Mystery and the Supernatural that Wordsworth did, which was really great because they reprinted a whole whack of books that hadn't been in print for sometimes a century or hard to get a hold of price wise or being out of print. So that was really cool to see. But I used to have a lot more of these, not vampire ones, because I don't know if they did any others, but other supernatural ones, but they were all gone now. I gave them away. Here's a collection of vampires. What does it start? Wait a minute. Is this? It's by Christopher Frayling. It's called Vampires, Lord Byron to Count Dracula. I think it's yes. It's a collection of vampire stories, basically starting with Paul Vidori and some other earlier stuff that is sort of vampire-ish. And yeah, it goes right up to, it's basically to Stoker, so it's not really new stuff. But it's a Faber and Faber. It's yellow pages, and it would be nice to have something a better conditioned one in better condition. But I'm okay with that now. Here's the Penguin book of vampire stories, edited by Alan Ryan. So this is quite nice. It's a book club edition, but it's got more contemporary, newer material. It starts out, uh, well, with the Polidori's, but with as Lord Byron as the. Oh no! Sorry, it's got that, but it's got fragment of a novel by Byron, the one he did. Camilla goes through, and then it's got stuff from the '80s. It's right up to 1984. Tanith Lee, Bite Me or Not, or Fleur de Fou. Bite Me or Not, or Fleur de Fou. 1984. Tanith Lee, as I say. There's others. There's a Fritz Leiber in here, C.M. Kornbluth, Richard Matheson, Charles Beaumont, Robert Bloch, Robert Aitken, Ramsey Campbell, 1983, C.L. Moore, Carl Jacobi, Manly Wade Wellman, August Derleth, P. Schiller Miller. These are all big names. M.R. James, Clark Ashton Smith, Algernon Blackwood, E.F. Benson. Thought I missed one there. F. Marion Crawford, Mary E. Wilkins Freeman, and then Bram Stoker's guest, the Dracula's guest by Stoker, Mary Elizabeth Brandon, and as I say, Sheridan Le Fanu with Camilla, and an excerpt from Varney the Vampire by James Malcolm Rymer. So it's a good collection. It's a very good collection. And more, we're jumping ahead to very, very recent sort of vampire incarnations. I haven't read this series yet. This was given to me as a gift, which I do want to read it. It's Anno Dracula by Kim Newman. It is a series that I do want to read. I think there's 4 or 5 in total. This was first published in 2011. Oh no, it says, wait a minute, that's the paperback probably. It says 1992. So originally, I guess by 1992 and 2011, the paperback. But that is a definite. And one that's recent by someone that follower on Twitter, Alice Earle. She's written Time's Fool. It's a Dracula novel, which is really good. It's it was done through Unbound, so it was sort of pledges. You put a pledge in, it's signed 31st of the 10th, 18 on the title page, and it lists everyone who made a pledge to get a signed copy. So it goes on for several our patrons, it's calling, and obviously my name's in there as well. And a more recent one that came out last year, which everybody was talking about, and I fell in and thought, well, yes, I'm going to get it because the price was okay, is Shadowplay by Joseph O'Connor. It's a novel set with Bram Stoker, Ellen Terry, Henry Irving, and the Lyceum, basically. And I heard so much rave about it, and somebody that I do know, an author, had a good review here on it, and so I thought, what better, to relax with is something like this. Started out really good. There was a few spots that, oh, this is really, really good. Then all of a sudden it tanked. It just, I don't know what he was trying. Well, I know what he was trying to do, but he just failed miserably doing it. It's a bad book in my opinion, but I've kept it because it's an example, and I've got space on the shelf at the moment. But this will be one, once I need some space for more Dracula stuff, it will go, most definitely. Which I was very disappointed. I know it's a huge book, but I just didn't quite get it. The only other thing at the moment that's on the shelf, because I was doing DVDs before, is a collection of the Universal monsters. This is called the Essential Collection, that came out in Blu-ray a few years ago. It's a limited edition box set, and it's got a number of little extras and bits and pieces in here. It's got all the DVD, the 8 original horror classics, it says. But it's got a booklet, a nice little booklet, which I love, and these things is the extra booklets. And it's also got, which would have been lobby cards, Creature from Black Lagoon, Dracula, are the posters here, I guess. They are not lobby cards. Frankenstein, Phantom of the Opera, The Bride of Frankenstein, The Invisible Man, The Mummy, and The Wolfman. So those are the 8 films that are in here. It's not the complete set. This was just put out as a sort of just a small collection. They've now since put out, I believe, the whole series on Blu-ray, especially in the States. I don't think they're out here yet in the UK. But anyway, I'm babbling now, and so I will end it there, BookTube. That is all really of my sort of Dracula vampire stuff. There might be a couple more things, as I mentioned in the earlier one, the previous video, that I might have a few Nosferatu things still sitting in my silent film section, which ultimately will probably get moved over to here. But anyway, we'll carry on. What's next? A shelf of Mary Shelley, sort of related stuff, and the year of Without Summer. There's a little crossover here with that one book of Byron and the vampire. And then we've got a shelf of Doyle, Arthur Conan Doyle, Sherlock type, and then we got a shelf of ghost stories that travels on to the second one into some horror, witchcraft, and horror. So there's 3 shelves of ghosts, witchcraft, horror, and actually studies of witchcraft. So let's say it this way: ghosts, horror, and then witchcraft and supernatural type material. So there's 3 shelves there. So there's 3, 4, 5 more to go. Right? 3, 4, 5. Yeah. Oh, geez, yeah, these are eight shelf bookcases that I've got here. Is that right? 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, 8 shelf bookcases that take me up right to the 9 feet to the ceiling with the top shelf, which is very difficult to get a hold of. But anyway, I'll end there, BookTube, and I will upload these slowly over the next few days. But anyway, take care. I hope everybody's doing well. And this has been a long time coming with this one, because I've been asked for the Dracula one for quite a while. But here it is. Take care, BookTube. Bye.